Picture this. Someone hands you the keys to a magnificent $2.5 million private jet. The catch? You literally have to live inside it, completely isolated for 100 straight days to keep it.
All right, let's plunge right into the reality of day one. I mean, the sheer scale of 100 days of confinement is genuinely hard to wrap your head around. From the very first hour, Armando is thrust into this hyper-restricted reality. Sure, he could fly the jet, he could look out the windows at the world passing below, but if even one part of his body touched the ground outside, boom, game over. Now, it definitely started off fun, taking a private jet for a spin, but the second those engines powered down, the reality of the next 3 months totally set in.
Section 1. The Luxury Prison. So, out on the tarmac, a Hawker jet absolutely screams glamour, wealth, and total freedom. But inside, it's a completely different story. It's a world-class aircraft, no doubt about it, but it was never ever meant to be a permanent human habitat. Think about the dream, flying anywhere you want, relaxing in luxury seating, and living that high-status life. But Armando's reality was way harsher. Even though he could technically fly the plane, he was ultimately trapped in this tiny metal tube. Those luxury leather seats, it turns out, they make for incredibly painful beds. And that billionaire status was pretty quickly replaced by a daily routine of dude wipe showers and eating out of a little airline cart packed with canned meats. Meats that, he even admitted, smelled a whole lot like cat food.
And you can see the toll it takes almost instantly. But just the second day, the claustrophobia was hitting him hard. He actually said the walls were starting to cave in and that it felt exactly like prison. Without any fresh air, a real kitchen, or even just space to fully stretch his legs, the novelty vanished. He was basically staring at 4 incredibly tight walls, totally missing the sunshine, and, most of all, profoundly missing his family.
Section 2. Trading Comfort for Cash.
To really test his resolve, there's this brilliant, torturous twist. Every 10 days, Armando was forced to choose between massive cash prizes and basic survival comforts. On day 10, the first big dilemma hits. Armando hasn't had a proper wash in over a week, right? And he's offered a fully functional shower attachment for the rest of the challenge. The alternative? $50,000 in cold hard cash. Despite the overwhelming urge to just get clean, Armando actually chose the money. He literally stuffed 50 grand into the tight little compartments of his jet. Now, turning down a shower after 10 days sounds completely insane to most of us, but he had a very specific, strategic reason for doing it.
And that choice pulls back the curtain on a pretty brutal financial reality. Winning a $2.5 million jet is an incredible feat, but actually keeping it, that is an absolute nightmare. We're talking staggering overhead costs for just 3 months of ownership. Think 8 grand for a hangar, 10 grand for insurance, and up to 30 grand in standard maintenance. Armando is a pilot, so he did the math right away. Without liquid cash, the jet would be completely useless to him. So taking that 50 grand wasn't about greed, it was absolute strategic necessity.
But fast forward to day 20, and his strategy had to change entirely. His body was literally breaking down from trying to sleep on those uneven plane seats. This time around, he was offered a custom, inflatable bed designed perfectly for the jet's floor, or a giant mystery crate hidden somewhere in the world. Knowing there was no way his body could endure another 80 days of physical agony, he gave in and chose the bed. The crazy twist? That mystery crate actually held a $250,000 Lamborghini. It's honestly the perfect real-world example of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Basic human biology totally took over, and he gave up a literal supercar just to get a good night's sleep.
Section 3. The Psychological Toll.
All right, so with his physical comfort kind of stabilized thanks to the new bed, the solitary confinement became the real enemy. As the days drag out, tracking his milestones over the next month is fascinating. You see Armando desperately trying to find some kind of normalcy and connection. On day 30, he actually gave up a massive restock of regular food just to get a phone with the DoorDash app. That let him order hot meals, exercise gear, even a vacuum cleaner. Basically nesting and trying to make this metal tube feel like a home. By day 50, he gets this super emotional, socially distanced check-in from his wife and daughter. And then on day 60, he turned down another $50,000. Why? To win a trampoline yard that attached right to the plane's door, finally giving him a spot to just step outside and breathe some actual fresh air.
But, even with the DoorDash, the comfy bed, and a makeshift yard to bounce around in, the emotional void was just devastating. He was totally open about it, admitting that his family was his absolute weak point. Those brief check-ins and tiny glimpses of people outside the jet were such a double-edged sword. Sure, they brought him a spark of joy, but they also left him agonizingly aware of the human connection he was just starved for.
Section 4. The Cross-Country Scavenger Hunt.
Just as the isolation is really peaking,
Day 80 rolls around with an explosive change of pace. Suddenly, the challenge pivots from this passive, sitting-around endurance to a frantic test of his piloting skills and logistics. Here are the rules for this grueling new mission. Over the next 10 days, Armando has to fly the jet to 10 unique cities across the U.S. After landing in each city, he has to order and receive an item through DoorDash. Then, he's got to collect all 10 items and make it all the way back to his home hangar in North Carolina by day 90. The prize, if he pulls it off, another desperately needed $50,000 to fund the jet's maintenance.
But look, this wasn't some flight simulator on a computer. This was real life, and real-world aviation obstacles threatened to derail his entire timeline. Over in Denver, a low main gear strut kept him grounded overnight while he frantically scrambled to find a mechanic. Then, flying to Portland, severe weather forced a massive diversion to Idaho, which burned another precious day. With his schedule totally slipping, losing even one more day to a mistake was absolutely not an option.
But despite the mechanical headaches and the crazy weather delays, Armando pushed through. He managed to snag his final item, a Bluetooth speaker, down in Tampa, Florida on the absolute last possible day. He nailed the mission. 10 cities, 10 items, one massive success. He locked in that $50,000 in cash and perfectly set the stage for the ultimate finale.
Section 5. The Final Choice. Day 100 finally dawns. Armando's family is brought right into the hangar, standing just feet away, ready to celebrate. But before he can even step off the plane and claim his prize, they hit him with one final, absolutely staggering plot twist. He's presented with the ultimate dilemma. Option 1. Take the deed to the $2.5 million jet right now, walk down those stairs, and hug the family he's been missing for over 3 months. Or, Option 2. Stay inside the jet, endure another 100 days of crushing isolation, but walk away with an extra $500,000 in cash.
Let's break down the frantic internal debate going through his head right here. On one hand, $500K completely changes the math, right? That easily pays for years of maintenance, fuel, and means he can literally fly his family anywhere in the world. But on the other hand, the previous 100 days had already pushed his mental health to the absolute brink. And the hardest part of it all was that his family was standing right outside the door, literally yelling at him to just say no to the money and come home. It was the absolute ultimate test. Extreme financial freedom versus basic human connection.
In the end, connection won. Armando turned down the $500,000, stepped off that plane, and ran straight into his daughter's arms. He walked away victorious with the deed to a $2.5 million private jet. He knew his limits, and he chose his family over the extra cash. But it leaves us with a totally fascinating psychological question to end on. Think about it. If you had already adapted to the space and the money was guaranteed, would you stay another 100 days for $500,000?